one of the serious conversations I had not too long ago with Tanner, and the one thing I said to him, I said, listen, I said, you might not like what mom and dad decide to do or allow you to do or not do. We might be a little bit stricter than other parents, but I said, has there been anything ever that we've ever done that we didn't have your best interests in mind? Your friends, they might think that they're looking out for you, but they don't ultimately have your 100% best interest in mind. I said, you're not going to understand it until you're a parent yourself. But there's at no point ever did mom ever say to you, oh, I don't want you to go hang out with your friends because, I didn't get to hang out with my friends when I was your age.
Right,
no,
100%.
But understand from my perspective, like that, I'm looking out for your best interest.
Guys, before we get started, just want to let you know, if you have any questions for us, please click the link below. You could ask us any questions via email, and we'll get back to you by the end of the episode. We have very special guest today, Steve Hodgins. He's an amazing soul. His wife, Marlena, and him do such an incredible job with the youth sports here in Howell. He's got 3 kids at home. They're all amazing kids. We'll really get into those kids and Steve's story. But Steve, we're really happy to have you here. Like I said, you have made such a tremendous impact on the community. I'll never forget my first day as Predator Wrestling head coach. 0 head coaching experience ever, and I looked around for help, and there was one person there, and it was Marlena, and she stuck by me all the time, no matter what. We would be texting at night, and it was just whatever you and Marlena could do for me, you guys were willing to do, even to the point that you guys gave me an opportunity to start up my wrestling club right out of your barn in your yard. And I really wish there were more families like you out there. You look around at a lot of these youth organizations and you see the same faces. And then you look around and it's like, why is all the responsibility on 1 or 2 people? But then you kind of realize that there's only a few type of people that are willing to do all the work for the kids, Well,
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
And listen, it's fun, but it's, whenever someone needs a little bit of help, I'm there to help. So, and same with Marlena. That's one of the things, but, I don't know. I think sometimes you have to look around a little bit because, like you said, there might not be that many, but look at our circle of friends. There's quite a few if you start really looking at it that are willing to help each other out.
Oh, for sure.
I was just glad that we could help you when you needed it, and and you've been there for us when we've needed it. And, same with you, Billy. Obviously, you and your family and Mike have, there's a great relationship there. So it's always good. It's good.
Like-minded people genuinely or generally find each other, and it works to everybody's advantage. Listen, Pete's been there for me a million times, as I know you've been there for Pete, or Pete's been there for you, and that's what makes those bonds special. I wouldn't be in the position I am today without Pete, and my son wouldn't ultimately be in love with the sport of wrestling, even though he does it just for fun. It's not a super competitive thing for us right now, and it might never be, but he fell in love with the sport because you gave Pete an opportunity to do his thing, and that ultimately impacted my son. So thank you for that, Steve.
Wow. Seriously.
Yeah, the way it goes, full circle, right?
It really does. I was just talking about that
works.
last night. Yeah. It's a full circle mat right there. And, no matter what sport it is, you and Marlena were both athletes. You guys both went to Penn State?
No, actually. Okay. So, funny story. So I went to Penn State, swam all 4 years, captain senior year. And then I left and I was guarding on the beach. And my captain was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm finishing up my internship. And I'm like, I don't know really what I'm going to do. I said, I don't think I wanted to go work for the police department, but I'm like, I don't know. It's just really political. And he's like, well, you ever think about coaching? And I'm like, yeah, I'd do that. He goes, why don't you come to LaSalle University? He was the head swim coach. And he goes, I think I could get you a job. So I said, all right. So I went there. And it was Marlena's senior year.
Okay.
And so, long and short of that story was that once senior year was over, then I asked her out on a date.
There you go.
We got together and,
That's awesome.
The rest is history, right? 3 kids.
That's awesome.
And everything out. But I was actually her coach her senior year in college. That's
no kidding.
That's how we met.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, who's the better swimmer?
So we were actually pretty close. We both had, in swimming, like wrestling, there's junior nationals and then there's senior nationals. We both were senior national qualifiers. We both had, I think, Olympic trial qualifications. I made Olympic trial qualifications on an off Olympic year. So when you do that, you don't actually get to go to trials. So I think she did the same.
Wow.
But if you want to get technical, I think I actually placed higher at senior nationals.
Oh,
than she
there's
did.
the
But-
truth.
but-
All right.
I mean, she did win a Atlantic 10 championship. I think she won 2. So I think my highest place at Big Tens was, I think, 6th or 5th or something. But yeah, so that was good. But then we first with our relationship, we both got into lifeguarding, and we were competing lifeguarding.
Nice.
Doing that stuff together on the beach. So that was fun.
Nice. What town was that?
So we both started in Bradley Beach.
Okay.
And we had a lot of fun in Bradley Beach, and then we moved on, and Belmar
Nice.
was the 2 towns that we worked for. But yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I'll assume Belmar's like the big leagues when it comes to lifeguarding.
Yeah, it was funny. Back when we were there, Bradley was pretty good. So Matt Nunley, who was the captain of the beach, and he was on the national scene in terms of lifeguarding. So like lifeguarding has its own competition. So lifeguard nationals, and you go out to California, and it's crazy. It's Mammoth County and it's LA County. In the lifeguarding scene, that's the 2.
Really?
Yes. And
Wow.
we're talking like LA County has won the cup for like 40 years, and the only team that's beaten them is Mammoth County.
No kidding. How cool is that?
Yeah, and every year we always go back and forth because our open division will usually beat LA County's open division, but they have more like vets and older people because out in California, like that's a real job.
Yeah,
You
true.
know, in Jersey, it's just,
it's
we did it for
seasonal.
fun.
You can go
but
year
That
round out
speaks
there.
volumes about the folks on the Jersey team.
really does.
Monmouth County. I mean, you got volunteers out there taking it that serious that they're competing at a national level like that.
Yeah, I mean, we have, I won a national title when I was lifeguarding. My buddy Andreas, who owns The Rock in Tinton Falls, I think he has like 12 national titles.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's, pretty intense and a lot of fun.
Now, you've
but-
successfully been able to pass that competitive edge onto your kids.
I was just going to say that.
And kept them like super grounded and well rounded. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been around your kids a decent amount, especially
humble
coming
at
in
the same time.
coming out of the barn, and like they'll see Max or whoever we were with there,
Yeah.
and always say hello, always incredibly polite. I mean, you've done a great job keeping them humble and grounded.
Yeah.
But how did you
I
pass
appreciate
that competitive
And
edge
also
on?
still working really hard,
Yeah.
staying disciplined.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, Marlena and I are super lucky. Our kids are great.
Yeah.
They are just really good kids. I mean, sometimes you just luck out with some of that. I truly believe in that. But at the same token, I mean, kids are sponges, right? So
Yeah, they're watching, they're listening.
They soak it all in.
Yeah.
And I found that out at very young.
I'm sure you say something, they repeat it the next day.
Exactly. So there were definitely some instances where I was like, where did you hear that? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, did I say that? One of those. But
That's where Billy and I are at right now,
Yeah.
the repeat stage.
100%.
The parrot.
yeah. So I mean, listen, I've always tried to lead by example, right? And especially with my kids and Marlena the same, obviously. But I mean, sports was always an avenue. I can only speak for myself, but Marlena's probably in that same group. But it was an avenue to be able to get to do things that I might not have been able to do without sports, right? So when everything's said and done, and when I was coaching, I would say this: if I don't need you to go out and get a scholarship, I don't need you to go out. If you go out and you're a productive person in society, then I've done my job.
Yeah.
I've done my job as a coach, right?
Exactly.
That was my ultimate goal. Would I love to get every single kid a scholarship? Would I love to be able to win championships? I'm all about it. I'm super competitive. You both know that
I've
about
seen that
me,
competitive spirit
right?
a lot.
Yes, and I'll never take that away. But at the end of the day, it's the constant reminder of, hey, listen, this is a game. We're supposed to have a little bit of fun with it, right?
Yeah.
And listen, like I said, there's a fine line that you have to work with.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not just all fun and games, and you
Right.
have to, you got to put them out there and do the competitions and test yourself. But I always reminded them at the end of the day, no matter what, I loved them. No matter what, we were still going to go get that pizza or that ice cream or whatever it was that we were doing, that it was never, ever that big of a deal.
Yeah.
I have to stop you right there. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I talked to Tanner a few years back. I don't remember exactly when it was, but it might have even been last year. And he had just come off some huge tournament with like a lot of success. And I was like, dude, what happened? Like, what changed? Like, what's going on? He's like, I just let it fly. And I just leave it all on the mat. But that comes specifically from exactly what you're saying, where it's like, yeah, you're gonna go all out, but like my dad still loves me. All right, so I don't need to get completely wrapped up in the results. I have this immense pressure now from dad telling me that I need to win and I need to be perfect. And like, you see the trickle down on him. He lets it fly, he runs free. And what comes with that is success. Success isn't on the other side of like dad fear, like, I can't have dinner tonight. We're not going to get pizza unless I win tonight. So like exactly what you're doing has a direct correlation on him. And I know that the same thing is going to happen with Trevor and, same thing with Taryn.
That's a tough line to walk, though, because like I'm super supportive of my son. Mm-hmm. You've heard me say it. I've cheered for him while he was getting his butt kicked in a wrestling match. I don't care, but I do want you to try hard. Mm-hmm. So now Sunday we're at Berkeley. Pete watched the game. We had a great game. We led up 2 plays. We wound up tying 14-14. And at the end of the game, I noticed Max is like welled with emotion. And I walk over. I was like, Bud, what's wrong? He goes, I just don't want you to be mad that we didn't win. And I'm like, buddy, you guys played an amazing game. Yeah. What are you talking about? So now I'm watching him go from a 5-year-old who started in athletics, who didn't care and didn't really understand competition. Mm-hmm. And now since he started baseball in the spring, he's put it together that winning means something to him. Right. Winning means nothing to me right now. I want him to smile. I want him to be happy. And he's got to figure that out. Like, I already told him, he has to go to Texas Roadhouse Thursday night after football and take a couple of kids on the team. And he's like, if I work hard, can we go? I said, yeah, if you work hard, we can go. I said, but understand we can go no matter what. You want to go out to dinner, as long as daddy can do it, like, you got it, bro. Like, I live for my kids. Yeah. So, and I kind of showed him that a little bit. We got out of the house Monday. I was up at 6 a.m. I ran a mile. Nothing crazy, especially when I'm talking to you guys, but
we'll take it, bro.
Yeah,
well,
listen,
you'll run like a marathon, like
there
on a
ain't no
phone
competition going on here,
but
baby.
I learned that
you.
really early after competition. Those years was, if I have 20 minutes, a half hour, that's good.
Yeah. So I got up. I get out of the house. I do a mile at 6. Robbie Leaks texts me, wanted to meet me at the reservoir. He wanted to do 3 miles. I said, I ran this morning. I don't feel like running anymore. I said, but me and Max, I said, we'll take the bikes over. I did 3 miles at the reservoir with my kid who just turned 7 at the end of June, and like that was the proudest I ever was, because he didn't complain. He loves being on his bike. Yeah. We're in the middle of the woods. He's never ridden on a trail like that. And my man didn't stop.
That's awesome.
Take it.
And I told him, I said, Bud, this is what it's about. If you're showing up, just finish the task, push yourself to do it, and you're winning. Yeah. That's all that counts.
Yeah, so there are a couple things I want to touch base on while I have it on my mind. So, like, the whole competition thing. Like, I'm super competitive, but I've also heard, like, parents say, well, like, how many matches should my kid get? Or how many of this? I don't want to overdo it. I don't think that there's a number. That, to me, you can do 100 matches a year. I'm okay with that. Just as long as the back part of that is the supportiveness, you're having fun, or, and
you're right.
That was the one thing that I loved with Dave Elliott, was like, hey, listen, like, we're going to do hibachi with the kids when we go out to Spooky Nuke. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, that sounds good. You know, I might not choose hibachi, but which I always have a joke with him.
Are you not a hibachi fan?
No, I like it, but it's just, I'm like, well, all the sodium with the kids. I'm like, I'm not thinking too much into it. But anyway, long story short, but the kids love that.
Yeah.
And I said, I remember, I had a lot of success. I got to, like you said before, swim at Penn State and be a captain of a swim team. But like I remember at 8 years old, I wanted wedgies and pile-ons on the back of the bus. Like that's
I remember same thing with Pop Warner. Right? I would look forward to like the cheese fries after the game.
So that's the one aspect of it, right? Is I think it's whatever that parent or that coach is doing during those tournaments, and at that there's that aspect of them having fun and enjoying
togetherness,
it, right?
community,
right? Exactly. Like whether it's and if it's winning for them, then so be it. Then let's go. I don't think one of the things looking back out of it, I didn't do all these national tournaments when the kids were small. I think there's something about winning that's exciting to our kids, whether we like it or not. They want to win. So the smaller tournaments, the Berkeley Bashes, the
Santa Showdown,
and
that's
all
where
those,
we're
like
at.
we did them, and that was a lot of fun. You didn't have to go to nationals. Like we went to New Way Nationals when they got a little bit older, but that was like the pinnacle. Like oh my goodness, like let's do that. It wasn't until they were a little bit older and they expressed to go and want to do other things, which we went down. But, at those ages, I don't think there's a match count for every kid. Right. And having 3 of them, they're definitely all different. Right. Then on the flip side of it, I'll share a story with Trevor. So we go to, it was one of those local tournaments, and he had a cement mixer down. Like, he got taught a cement mixer, and he had it down, and that's what he was doing. He was getting a front head, snapping the kid down, cement mixing.
That was his move.
That
right
was
there.
it. Like, and he didn't lose. I don't think he lost for like 3 years. Everyone talks about Tanner. Tanner would win some, lose some. Trevor didn't lose for like 3 years. But
Tanner had a lot of struggle along his way.
But Trevor, he pinned everybody with that move. So I said to Trevor, "Listen, I love you, bud, but we got to try another move. Like,
I love you, bud.
Maybe a takedown. Like maybe we grab an ankle or high crotch or give me something, And he's like, okay. I said, listen, I'm gonna tell you, I don't want you to do that move at all at this tournament. I said, I don't care whether you win or lose, but I don't want you to do a cement mixer. I said, if you do that, I'm walking out. And he's like, okay, no problem. Goes in, what's he do? Sure enough, snaps the kid down, cement mix, and goes. And he comes back over, and I'm walking out of the gym. And he's like, Dad. I was like, what? I told you. I said, I'm not mad at you. I told you I'm not sitting here. The move. I said you have to try something else. And he's like, I just forgot. It was just so. I just so totally forgot. He's like, I'll try it. So he did, and now he's doing that. But it's also just letting him know it's okay to try different things, even if you're not good at it. And I used to tell him to try it in practice first, like. And Coach Vin, I know you guys had him on here.
Yeah, you've learned a lot. I could tell that you guys, all the parents over there, have learned a lot, too, from him.
Yeah, I mean, Vin never, ever, especially when they're young, he never pushes them to win. He wants them to get better. And he even said it the other day at the high school practice. Like, you can't be afraid to shoot in practice. Like, it's practice. Like, you're there to get better and to get your partner better. So let's have fun with it. And that's the other thing is like, I know it's such a cliche, especially with the Penn State wrestling. And,
I love it though.
But they're like, oh, just have fun, fun. And that's.
No, you're good.
And that's part of it is going and having fun with it, and and fun is winning, and kids like to win, and it's
but there's a way to walk that balance. I mean, fun with winning, but like Pete has kept my eyes open to it's got to be sustainable and enjoyable for my son. Like, listen, we're not wrestling year round. We're not taking it super serious. But I fucked up, and I listened to other people, not in a bad way, that their kids are at a different spot, and I wind up at Kalahari because Johnny Ryan was wrestling JP, and he's like, bro, it's going to be a great tournament for little kids. We showed up. It's like kids from all over the East Coast of the country. My kid has
how
barely
a false
been
narrative
wrestling.
gets created in the parents' room sometimes, and
so we show up there, and Max gets waxed in his first match. Like, 30 seconds he got pinned. He wins his second match. He gets teched in his third, and I'm cheering for him. But I realized I fucked up at that moment. Like, bro, we should stick with the little tournaments. You know, he did well at all the rec stuff that he did. He did really well.
Right.
He's got to enjoy that victory before I throw him to the fucking wolves.
Yeah.
And it didn't bother him. He was like unfazed by the losses,
Right.
which I was proud of. You know,
that's why you didn't F up. You know, you went out there.
I'm lucky in that sense that, he's young enough that it didn't matter. He was upset for a couple minutes, but he was good.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think there's a right or a wrong, and I don't think that there's no playbook.
Right.
There's no playbook. What worked for Pete and what works for Pete's kids and what works for me and my kids can be completely different than what works for you and your kids. I mean, that's what you got to, even in my household, like, I knew that there were certain things, like,
your kids are all
Tanner
different.
really wanted to do Super 32 before he went into high school.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor, he was like, I just don't know if I'm ready for it right now. I'm like, well, I'll bring you. I have no problem. He's like, I'm okay. I don't think I need that right now, but I want to do this, and this. I'm like, okay, then let's roll with it. You know, I don't think it's a bad thing to get kids out of their comfort zone.
True.
And to experience something like that. Mm-hmm. I also don't think that failure is a bad thing.
No, I think failure's a great
amazing.
thing. I've said it a million times. You got to learn to pick yourself up.
So I'll share another story is with Tanner at New Way. And he had some success the year before. I think he might have even won youth states. And then we go on vacation and we come back and he's a little chubby and, but he's still on his high horse. And he's like, yeah, I'm just going to go and I'm just come. What weight you wrestling? And I forget what it was, like 130 or something like that. And I'm like, you want to think about maybe like watching what you're eating that week, and we can kind of see a little bit on the scale. And he's like, "No, I'm good. I got this." And he went, I think, like 1-7. Like he got his butt kicked. Like
I bet he cut weight next time.
Up and down, and it wasn't. He didn't. He decided to make fitness a little bit more of a priority for him, which was, and it was out of my hands.
Right.
Like it was great. It was the best thing that ever happened. I was like, how was that? And he's like, well, I can tell you, I'm not going 130 for Tulsa. Yeah. And I said, okay. Yeah. I said, well, what do we do? And he's like, well, he goes, and I'm thinking he wants to go like 120 something. And he's like, I'm going to go 115. And I was like, oh.
Better get them workouts in.
I'm like, all right. I'm like, good luck. Like, I'll help you, whatever you need or whatever. But I didn't have to say anything. Yep. It was all on him. That was the one thing. That was the other thing with some parents. Like, I never chose their weight. They're stepping on the scale, not me. Yeah. I mean, if they ask my opinion, I'll kind of guide them, but I'm not. That's them. That's their deal. Like, and so sure enough, he ended up going to Tulsa. And I think that year he got down to 115 pounds. But me and Marlena didn't have to talk. It was chicken, broccoli. It was, he was doing all the right things, going for runs. But that was at that time frame in which, like, he needed that. Yeah. He needed those losses. Because if he didn't have those losses, then I don't know if you would have seen what you see today because of that.
I was just watching the Zanetti boys from Wrestling Mindset, and they said that their dad used to say when they were growing up, he would ask them frequently, I think they said either daily or like once a week, like, what did you fail at today? Right. What did you fail at? And like Billy and I have these young kids, and we're trying to find this like old school, new school balance. Like we want to give our kids completely everything, but then in the back of our mind, we don't want to spoil the heck out of them and not have them prepared for real life and how difficult that's going to be. So but the fact that they were saying, and those guys have really done a great job with the mental aspect of the sport, but the fact that dad was acknowledging that to his young kids, like, hey, how many times did you fail? Yeah. How many times did you fall short? Oh, wow. Okay, great. Oh, you went 1-7, but you learned a whole bunch, and now you're taking that to Tulsa. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's a fine line, though. I mean, I've also seen Trevor go like 0-9 at back, and I take a deep breath. I'm like, okay, like we don't need to do that again, you know? So it's, like I said, it's definitely, you have to read the kid, you know, and you'll know.
And you're not pushing too hard, which I guess kind of mirrors Vince Santinello. When he was on from Sure Thing, said he never pushed his kids. Yeah. And he never made them do anything that they didn't want to do, which, I mean, from what I'm seeing, and I'm new to the youth wrestling scene, but a lot of these parents are like living through their kids. And I mean, I enjoy watching my kid.
Oh, yeah, of course.
We all do. Anything, whether football, baseball, doesn't matter what it is. I enjoy showing up to watch. Right. but I'm not, his success isn't my happiness.
Right.
His enjoyment is. But like at Kalahari, I saw dads in the face of like 8-year-old kids like talking about, I'm never coaching you again.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that to a little kid. It's such a formidable age. You're A, going to ruin the sport. You're B, going to ruin your relationship. And now the kid thinks that your happiness is strictly dependent on them.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I don't
And
know.
that's not
if
just
it's-
wrestling. I see it in football. I see it everywhere.
I'll say it's. I see it more prevalent in wrestling
I see it there
than
too.
in
A
other
lot
sports.
more,
I don't
yeah.
really see it too much in swimming.
Yeah, okay. I've never been to a swim meet, so
really,
I don't know.
It's more of those, we'll just call them alpha, physical contact. I mean, that's the other thing that you have to, like that for me was a change. Like, I mean, essentially they're fighting, right?
Yeah.
And like you're right there. And as a parent, you want to protect them, right?
Right.
To every, like that's in your core.
Primal instinct.
Right, that is your
Yeah.
primal instinct to the point where that's why you see mothers run on mats, grabbing other kids.
That's their
you know,
baby.
right, to get them off. But I mean, there's just like you said, some parents out there that maybe never had that success,
Right.
that never were in the same level playing field in terms of what that is. I think, we're all very successful in life. Thank God for that. But I think by having that, then, we can sit back and kind of put things in perspective. I also think that just, life in general and some of our interactions in life is what's kind of steered us to be the way we are with our kids, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like, to me, as much as I love sports and as super competitive as I am, I also realize that, it's just a sport.
Yeah. I mean,
so-
ultimately, life is what you need to be worried about. And
Right.
life, I had this conversation with somebody this morning. No matter what's going on, and like the last 8 weeks have been pretty shitty for me since my dad's passing, just figuring life out. None of it really matters. I mean, especially with athletics. I come home, my 3 little kids love the crap out of me.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, that makes me the most successful person in the world. And I'm winning everything as long as I get those hugs. And I had that conversation with a young father today. He's got a newborn, and he's traversing life. And, I told him, I said, the stresses that you're talking about, none of it fucking matters. Right. I want to be successful. I want to do this. Ultimately, success starts with being able to hug your child and know that your intentions are pure for them and their love is real for you, and you've got that. I mean, your kids are world beater athletes, but I'm sure nothing makes you happier than knowing that you're a good dad and that they love the crap out of you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's always ups and downs.
Of course, man. Of course.
That.
My kid told me he hated me last week because I took his iPad away.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you're dealing with the hormones and the, different things, and there's definitely obstacles that are
of course
currently and in the future. But they know that we're gonna get through it together.
Yeah,
and one of the serious conversations I had not too long ago with Tanner, going over things, and the one thing I said to him, I said, listen, you might not like what mom and dad decide to do or allow you to do or not do. We might be a little bit stricter than other parents, but I said, has there been anything ever that we've ever done that we didn't have your best interests in mind?
Damn.
I said, that's it. That's all you got to think about. I said, your friends, they might think that they're looking out for you, but they don't ultimately have your 100% best interest in mind. I said, and you won't, I'm telling you this. I said, but you're not going to understand it until you're a parent yourself.
Exactly.
And I said, but there's nothing, me and your mother, there's at no point ever did mom ever say to you, oh, I don't want you to go hang out with your friends because, I didn't get to hang out with my friends when I was your age.
Right.
No, it was because of X, Y, and Z is why I don't want you. There's a reason why I don't allow my kid to drive in a car with a teenager. It might be Sebastian Ortega, who's
such an
going
amazing
to Princeton
kid.
and such a great kid. But I said, listen, I had 3 of my friends die in a car accident when I was 16 years old. I said,
prior to
listen,
that.
you're not getting in the car.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm sorry, it's just not happening. And listen, it would be a lot more convenient for mom and dad.
100%.
But understand from my perspective, like that, I'm looking out for your best interest, right? And so if you can get them to understand that, even a 16-year-old filled with
That's got to be a
hormones,
rough world.
it's, because the other tough part that you're going to run into is that there are a lot of other parents that don't feel the same way we do.
Definitely.
We've discussed that
Which
in here.
is
Right?
which is ultimately a good thing. You guys chose to homeschool. Like, I saw a lot of our community's true colors throughout the COVID times. And it was like the media was telling us to do certain things and we were having different conversations.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, hey, sit in the bleachers and wear a mask. We're like, oh, we're going to go.
Yeah.
We're probably not going to have our masks on, but I think, but my point is, I think it's good to go against a lot of the societal norms.
Yeah, but I get what he's saying, like communicating that to a 16-year-old who's whirled with emotion and hormones changing and life. You're becoming a man at that point.
He's going to be thankful and grateful when he becomes a dad. And I think every kid with a good parent goes through that. Like, I remember not wanting to hear what my mom and dad had to tell me.
Yeah. Well, but so there's a difference, though, and this is what I'm trying to explain. I think Billy gets it. Is back when our parents were doing it, maybe out of 10 of them, 6 or 7 of them parented like your parents.
Now it's
now out of 10 of them, you might have 1, 2 that parent the same way that you parent, and so that can be. Well, that can you take a deep breath.
And,
on
social
that
media is
hard.
another part of that because it shows aspects of so many people's lives. So, like, I don't have to deal with it with a 7-year-old, but I'm sure at 16, kids are posting things on social media that your kid could look at and say, well, so-and-so's doing this, why can't I? Right. It's much more accessible. When we grew up, I didn't know what Steve down the street was doing. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I didn't really have a basis to complain. I just knew that I wasn't allowed to do it. Yeah. If I argued, maybe I got disciplined. But I couldn't point and say, well, everybody else is doing it. Why can't I?
Yeah, but you could always, you could just slide Tanner towards the mirror and have him look at his reflection. We're going against the grain. It's just your mom and I. Yeah. There may be some other parents that may agree with us slightly here and there, but you're not vaping. Yeah. You're not doing drugs. You're not drinking all the time. So it's like...
You're winning.
Just please just stay the course. I know it's tough. You have practice in the morning. Yeah. You're not going to the party at night. I honestly love what you guys are doing, and I'm going to take a lot of that with me as a parent, and I hope that more people go along the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like I said earlier, you don't have a playbook. Yeah. I mean, and that's... Ultimately, you lead with your heart, and you hope that everything turns out all right. But I think there's a point that comes where you can then point things out to say, "Hey, listen, so and so didn't do so well, or so and so did this, or so and so did that."
Right?
Like, you can show them that,
it's right there.
And it's right there.
Yeah. It is.
And sometimes you need to point those things out.
You have to.
And explain, like, hey, that person did X, Y, and Z when they were a little kid, but now they're not. Yeah. And so why do you think that is? I know exactly why that is, but I mean, there are some factors, but there's probably one big one, and partying and hanging out, that just wasn't a priority to them to keep that stuff. But I mean, sports kept me pretty straight and narrow, and that was I think that was in agreement with Marlena and I, and why we got the kids involved there. We definitely wanted them to know how to swim.
Right.
For a
safety reasons.
A life skill.
And working in law enforcement, you've seen, I'm sure.
Right. We live in Jersey. I mean, we're almost surrounded by water everywhere, right? And then we wanted to be able to defend themselves. So actually it was Tanner and Trevor at the time. We both put them in jiu-jitsu first.
Nice.
And then we went they really enjoyed the wrestling aspect of jiu-jitsu. And then we were with Kurt Pellegrino, and he's like, oh, well, you're going to have to do wrestling. You got to go to a wrestling club. And so that's how we got turned on to BIM. But I think sports is just one of those things that, even if you kind of get off of the path a little bit, it can bring you back. Yep. And it's one of those things that, because like you said, like you got to get up for practice tomorrow. Or you got to, you got a competition. You're going to have to, rest this weekend or, and you're going to be now around hopefully like-minded individuals when it comes to that.
Exactly. And the success is more about the things that you're saying no to than the things that you're saying yes to. And the template is kind of there for if you get any pushback, like, hey, so-and-so is going to be at the party. And it's like, so-and-so fell short.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if the party's really necessarily the best place for you to be tonight.
Yeah.
If you're trying to, with the competitive edge in mind, not needing to win, but if you want to win, you got to get your rest.
And there's a balance.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all about the balance.
Yep.
But there was a little bit
It
of
seems
pushback.
like you do it well, though. I
Definitely.
mean, none of your kids seem like they're out here rebelling or about to be rebelling, in a huge way.
I would love to think that, but
Well, I'll tell you, outside looking in, I've never really heard anybody say a bad thing about any of your children. They're always with the utmost respect, whether that's out of fear of repercussion or just, years of training and planning. You're doing something right.
Well, I appreciate that, but I mean, listen, we have hard days just like everybody else,
sure.
and that's it's but it's a constant give and take, and that that's really what it comes down to, is that I'm okay with listening to their side. And I was a big why kid when I was why
I can imagine.
Right?
I can see that for
why
you.
do we do this? Why do we do that? And that's I'm okay with sitting down and trying to explain some things to them, and I think sometimes that's all it takes. I mean, but there's also times where you just have to realize that, like, I told my kids to drink water like day and night. It didn't make a difference.
Right.
I was like, all right, listen, like, if you just drink a gallon of water, you'll be fine. Like, your weight will come down. You'll be hydrated. It's better for your nutrition. It's better for this and that. Yeah, I'm good. He comes back from Joe McCullough. I swear to God, this is a true story.
Yep.
Comes back from Joe. He said, Coach Joe says I have to drink a glass of water a day. He has a gallon of water. I'm like, it didn't make a difference what Marlene and I said.
Sometimes you need another voice.
Yeah, it needed to come from somebody else.
I know my kid will listen to Pete better than me.
Right.
But that
100%.
happens a lot, though, and I actually really like that, because there is a point in time, maybe it's a lot of years for some people, that what mom and dad are saying kind of going in one ear out the other. What the hell do mom and dad know?
Yeah.
But when there's another voice that's echoing mom and dad, that's when the kids will say, oh, okay, the light bulb goes off at that point.
Yeah, and it has to be somebody that they respect and they care for. And that to me, I mean, listen, whether you want to say it's fortunate or unfortunate with our kids, like both Marlena and I, we played sports at a very high level. So we have a lot more insight than other parents at certain things. Yep. Nutrition.
Not just parents, you have more insight than a lot of coaches, at this point, as at the high school level especially.
Yeah, so for certain things, of course, but there's just going to be times where they don't want to listen to you. That's what it comes down to. I mean, you just have to realize sometimes that that's going to be the case. I mean,
I've realized that at an early age. Sometimes, no matter what the message is, it could be, do X, Y, and Z on this play in football. Or it could be like, pick up your toys. It doesn't make a difference. Sometimes if I say it, it's lost because I'm dad. But if Coach Pete or Coach Scott says something, it clicks, and I've figured that out. So, like, on a football field, I'll ask Scott. Now, you know Scott Hortiz very well. I'll say to Scott, you got to do me a favor, talk to Max.
Yeah.
And I'll talk to Rocco or whatever. Yeah. Just that familiarity of just us laying at the house together, watching a movie on the couch. Not that he doesn't want to listen to me, but what does Dad know right now?
Right.
Yeah.
So that breaks the barrier a little bit. Now, speaking of that, I know you've mentored or helped a few of your kids' friends along the way and taken some under your wing. And
God bless.
let's not just make it about your kids and what you've done for them. You've done a lot for the Howell community. I'm not even going to say the wrestling community, but the Howell community as a whole.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, Marlena and I have been very fortunate on, we have good jobs. We're both, knock on wood, healthy. And to us, if there was something that we could do that help other kids out that might not have those same opportunities, why not?
Yeah.
You know, there was nothing, and that was like the whole barn, you know, like I opened those doors and, you know, like, oh, what do we need to do? I'm like, nothing, like clean it. You know, when you use it, that's really all I'm asking. I mean, if not, that why? Like, why? It's just sitting there. Like, why would you not?
Friday morning.
You know, why would you not want to go in there and use it? And I kind of, from that aspect of it, I felt the barn was one of those places where, you know, like if a kid needed to get away, and just kind of do their own thing, they had a place,
safe space. Yeah,
it was like something where they didn't have to, and. You know, every once in a while I would go out there and just check on somebody if they're out there. Like, you all right? You good? Yep, I'm good. But it was theirs. Like, I didn't really cared who came in or who didn't. You know, it was one of those things where, you know, and still to this day, they're kids that, you know, all I ask is they shoot me or someone in our household a text just so, you know, we know that someone's gonna be out there using it. But yeah, I mean. It still gets a lot of use by a lot of different kids in the town, and that's a good thing. I mean, that's a. I hope it continues. You know, for many more years, and that's you know, if it's a little something that we can do, then we can do it. You know, that's
Evan. You've been out there, right? With me, with the videos and stuff? Yeah. Place is great, right?
Yeah. And it's evolved.
I know.
I mean, it started off it had my tractor, it had my 52 Chevy in there. Like, you know.
I remember you guys had the rock climbing wall on the sides.
Yeah. Then we ended up getting mats from Mike DeMarco, who actually got those mats from Anthony Ashnault. Yeah. You know, so.
That's how it goes, full circle again.
But yeah.
I remember the South Plainfield mats you had.
Yeah, that was the.
And remember me and the kids were doing flips off of those?
Yep. Yeah, so it definitely evolved. Now it's wall-to-wall mats, and it's just purely wrestling and working out, which is good. But I mean, it's it's a good space.
Yeah, it's full circle again. I had my own son in there Friday morning. Mason was with me.
Yeah, and that's awesome. What it's about. Like that's that's really what it. When we. You know, when we decided that, and COVID really, as crappy of a time it was a blessing in disguise for me. You know, like you said before, I pulled my kids out of school. There was a lot more things that we were kind of rushing through life that we kind of slowed down and kind of, you know, got to know our kids. And then we realized there were a lot of things that they didn't know that they should know. And then, you know, then we ended up doing the barn and we needed a place to wrestle. And I was like, oh, let's do it. Let's turn this around. And it wasn't just me. I mean, I had 4 or 5 of my buddies help me out, and we grabbed mats and we started, you know, making changes, and we made it all work. But
some of your friends did the electrical over there, right? And, you know,
the electrical. Then we ended up
the heaters going.
Got a spray foam in there.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. The spray foam. That was Nino.
Yep. Nino.
Guys, his nephew.
So it was good. It was definitely, you know, new mats, and like I said, if we had the opportunity to be able to help somebody, and I know that you and your family and Certified, I mean, you guys are in the same boat, and you guys have helped us in the past, and
we always will.
Right, and that's I just think that there's just certain people out in this world that just are built like that.
Listen, Pete said it. There's people that are givers, and you're a giver. Luckily, we're blessed to be in a position where we can give. Right. I know Pete will give anybody the shirt off of his back if they needed it. And I think that's why the 3 of us are sitting at this table, like minds, you know, with common goals of just leaving the community a little better off than it was before. And, you know, guys like you with kids that are older than my kids or Pete's kids really laid a foundation and an example for us to follow. Now, I know Pete's been around wrestling forever, and, you know, I'm lucky that he was my son's first interaction to the sport, because it made my kid really enjoy it. Now, like I said, he's in everything from BMX to wrestling. And I know if I said to him, you got a choice, you go to football or wrestling. We're going to you go to football or you go to Coach Pete's. We're going to Coach Pete's. But, you know, he gives his time. You give space, you give time. Pete gives space, Pete gives time. I'm just out here trying to figure out exactly where I can help, and I've carved
You've done a great job at that.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I've carved a little niche out of my own in helping.
For sure.
You know, and with youth sports like football, I love my interactions with the kids and the parents.
It's the best.
You know, I had a kid last night. He goes, Coach Billy, I got to tell you a secret. The kid is like I don't know, up to like the middle of my thigh. He's so little, but he's adorable. He's like, I gotta tell you a secret. So I have to get down on one knee. He's like, you're my favorite coach. And he whispered, and I looked at him. I was like, bro, you just made my day.
Yeah.
But that comes down to like being an open ear as an adult and reading each kid differently. They all need something different.
Definitely.
So,
Steve, did you have anyone along the way? I know you went through that terrible hardship with your friends dying when you were young. Was there someone in your life that really kind of molded you into who we see today and how you are, whether as a parent or a coach or?
I would probably say my father.
Yeah.
My father was a big influence. He was a swimmer as well.
Nice.
He swam for University of Miami, and
Awesome.
then
so it's in your genetics there.
Yeah, well, it's funny. So
he
both,
got those long arms.
like me, my sister. I have an older sister. She's 4 years older, and my father all were very, very competitive swimmers, and then my mom couldn't swim.
Oh wow! Like legit,
Like
no
legit
doggy
swim,
paddle, nothing.
Nothing.
Okay.
We tried.
Just not having it.
Nope. She wouldn't come out of the shallow end of the swimming pool, but.
She'd be on the stairs.
Yeah, but my dad was always, he was always there, always supported us,
Nice.
but never overdid it, never pushed us,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that came from, him kind of, sitting back and letting us, lead the way, but being there if we needed it. And that was, there was nothing that when it especially came to sports, but in general, there was just certain things that they said that, that I knew that it was okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that was kind of, from that standpoint, my dad was definitely kind of led the charge in that.
That's
And,
awesome. It sounds like he really led by example in the same way that you are.
Yeah, well, that was
with a similar.
Yeah, I mean,
energy.
He did that. Obviously with his background in swimming.
Right.
But at the same token, he would get up and work out every day. And I saw
Right,
that.
see?
I took that
You were
all
the same
in.
sponge your kids are for you.
Right. And so that was kind of what, going down that same path of, trying to lead by example a little bit and,
That's awesome.
Doing that. So it was definitely, I would definitely say it was my father that kind of steered
amazing.
me down there. So, I was extremely fortunate, and obviously along the way, and that's part of it. Like you were saying, what's right for your kid now, right? And I'll say it with Tanner. Tanner needed Pete at a certain point, and now he doesn't need him as much, and that's okay.
That's okay.
That's 100% okay.
But I'm sorry to cut you off. I still got that nice FaceTime down in AC.
Right,
You
right.
know, my heart still really pulls me for him. But you're right. There was a point in time that he needed me. I probably needed him just as much in those moments.
Right.
And we had our great time together. But
Yeah.
so then as he goes,
But that's, and moving through, looking back now, at my experiences in life in general, right? There's going to be different parts down that path. When I got into college, my head coach, my assistant coach, they were aces. 100% on board, steer me in the right path.
Perfect.
Super supportive, great atmosphere with that. And then, then after that, leading into my profession into law enforcement, you have your mentors along the way and, kind of steer you in your direction, and you learn, you're living life on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
So as you're living, you're learning. So
as you're living, you're learning. I love that.
Now, while you're living
what it
and
is.
learning, have you learned any techniques? For me, we were talking earlier. I know for me right now, one of the most valuable adds to my adult life has been the cold plunge in the last few months. But I only learned about that through Pete and Dave Seidenberg and, Matty Trost. And, it's helped balance me out. I've also learned breathing techniques and stuff like that. Is there anything you've picked up that's been really valuable to just managing life?
To managing life. So I will say, if you don't want to do something, don't do it.
Yeah.
Life's way too short. That's the one thing that and
That's huge.
and sometimes
Yeah.
sometimes I have, Marlene's like, oh, well, you got to come to dinner. I'm like, I don't want to go to dinner.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. Like, I'm sorry, I love you. If you want to go and do that, go ahead and do that. I don't have anything against you or whatever, friends, but I don't want to do that. I would rather do X, Y, and Z, right?
I was such a yes man for so long, and not to cut you off, Steve, but even when I had the seizure and everything, which is ultimately why Billy and I got on here. He was in the hospital, I had the seizure. We're both like, hey, let's get out here and help men navigate things a little bit better. But what I learned in that time was like saying no, and like it was amazing. It took stress completely off of me. Like you know when your kids are young and you have like literally like 3 birthday parties in the same day. And it's like, hey, we're going to 1. You know, we're going from 1 to 3, and then, you know, we're going on with our day together as a family. Like, we're not going to 3 birthday parties. I'm sorry. I'm not going to dinner Friday night. I have this thing Saturday morning. Like, I'm not staying up. I don't drink. Like, I don't want to go. And saying no is huge.
We did it Monday. We had a birthday party and back to school party. And then my neighbors had a party. So we were at 1 until
1 or
like
2.
7:30. We made a quick appearance at my neighbors, and then
Irish goodbye.
Yeah, only because it's across the street. But like I told my wife, I said, listen, we're gonna get home from the first party at like 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'm not staying there till 10. Like, I got a life to live. Like, I got work in the morning, so my kids were pissed at first, but.
Yeah, I mean that, and then I'm real big on our vacations, like our family vacation. Like that to me that's time that you're never getting back. And that's, do it. Like, I used to catch so much crap at work.
Oh, I can imagine.
Oh my God, you're taking 3 weeks? I'm like, yeah, I'm taking 3 weeks.
Got it.
Like,
gotta use it.
I'm taking 3 weeks.
You're not here to work.
But 3 weeks in a row, I'm like, I'm like, I want to enjoy my time. Like, I want to enjoy my time with my family. Like, so.
Do you feel like you have to play catch up when you get back? Do you get a little bit anxious and kind of?
So now I've learned, and I'm in a position right now where I can kind of navigate it before I go.
Okay.
And then that way.
Good.
Like, I came back this time and it was like I never left.
Yeah. Good. And then while you're there, are you pretty much disconnected and completely in the present, or are you still kind of torn?
I love the state police. I truly do. But when I'm not in the state police,
God bless. That's
I don't think about it.
Huge.
God bless you.
That was something that I had to really, especially when I first was on. With,
I can imagine.
A lot of the stuff that I saw or dealt with at work. And it was hard. But I had
How'd that look in the beginning?
I had to eliminate that from
when
bringing it
you
home.
saw stuff. Like, was there ever a point in time that what you saw at work you were bringing home, or were you finding other alternatives to kind of cope?
It was. I was super lucky with the fact that even if Marlena didn't necessarily want to hear it, she would hear it.
Good.
And so it was good. But
kind of talking
I remember her. Like my first fatal accident. Right. Like my first motorcycle accident. Now, mind you, I had been riding motorcycles since I was 18 years old.
Did you stop at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I stopped riding. I didn't ride a motorcycle for a year. But there was, definitely certain things that, like I had to shake my head at. And, and she was super supportive in that. Respect and listening to what I had to, and then we would talk about it, which was good. I had a good outlet. But, I have my best friend, my best man in my wedding, and his older brother, who was like my older brother growing up, they're both cops.
Right.
So one's a cop in Homedale, one's a cop in Cold Snack.
So you got a little bit of a way that you can kind of relatable. If you try to tell the stories to Billy and I, who are kind of in sales, business, it's like we have this other stress I was asking about disconnecting, because it's hard for us to disconnect from the phone. If you feel like you're gone for 3 weeks, you're kind of at the beach. Your kids are talking to you, but your mind's at work. Like we're trying to find that balancing act. Like, literally right now, I'm getting a little bit better as it, disconnected and whatnot.
You've
but
actually gotten really good at it. Since we started this, you've gotten really good at it. It
feels a lot better, than it once did. I was really carrying a lot of that stuff. I had a smile, but I was
That's why
really
we started this, though, for a little bit of improvement and us to vent.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm in the same boat. I used to be overwhelmed with anxiety over the goddamn phone and work.
Out of your control type stuff.
Yeah,
and
now.
Losing sight of the gratitude. The kids, the blessings are right there next to you. All you need in this life. I saw a video recently that was somebody that worked in the medical field that dealt specific with cancer patients. And then I just have one more point. He said that those people that he was with every single day, they wouldn't choose the money. They would choose the health, whether it was the back or the lack of walking, like whatever it may be. Those people, that's all they want. We have that. What do we have to complain about? Now, easier said than done in a lot of times, but I saw that and I was like, it's true, because you don't wake up in the morning and say, thank God my back doesn't hurt. Yeah. But when your back is hurting, all you want is for it to feel better. But we have these blessings. But the other point is, I went to Ram Cafe yesterday and I ran into Kenny Rayon. And we had a great story. I just got the chills just now thinking about him. And he didn't see me right away. And I said, hey, Ken, kind of looked over, got to talking. I just want to say, like, your story has been such an inspiration to me. And I got into telling him a little bit about my story, and then we went back and forth via text, and I want to actually get him on. And but he's back to work. Like, I'm like, dude,
full time.
You can't compare someone like him and Coach V at South. Like, Kenny, you're not normal, dude. The normal population, the normal diet, the lack of working out, whatever it may be, that's not you, dude. You're an absolute specimen. Yeah. You're back to work full time. You fought cancer. You kicked cancer's ass. But he said that him and his wife removed all cleaning supplies. Like, they had to get educated. I get the chills again. A lot of stuff that we talk about between what's in the food, the cleaning supplies, the little Febreze things that you stick into the wall. 95% of ShopRite could have cancer in it. Maybe there's 5% along the wall. Even the stuff along the wall where it could be
even
a little
the
bit
stuff
fearful.
you think is clean is not.
But he had to. He shifted all of that, which is so amazing. And we got into talking, not to get off track, but about the food and cancer and all these crazy things in this world, which is why I love what you and Marlena are going against the grain on, because the current grain is not leading us to where we want our kids to be. And these monster powers that be, Bill Gates and all his cronies, they don't want healthy kids. No. Unfortunately.
They're dependent.
I don't know if it's population control. I don't know if that, there has to be, aside from money, there has to be another driving force to want people to be unhealthy. It's in
so
the medical
much
field,
motivated
whatever
by
it may
money.
be.
Well, listen, I mean,
big pharma.
It's money.
Yeah,
it's really, ultimately, when you look at everything, you could sit down and do politics and everything else. What it comes down to, it's money.
Yeah.
It's money.
And that's what Kenny and I were talking about.
That's really what it ultimately comes down to.
Sick people are repeat customers.
Bro,
but they're not dead yet.
They're manufacturing meat now. I saw a thing. They're making meat that people are supposed to eat with 3D printers now.
Good night.
It's insane to me. And me and Mayor had this conversation. There's a service online. It's a subscription. I was looking at it last night, and we're going to go through it tonight probably. It's like a food store online, but it's all healthy, and they give you a full education on everything. The shit that I'm giving my kids, forget about cancer down the road, just attention and focus wise right now is terrible.
How do you have waffles and syrup for breakfast and expect to sit there in school for 8 hours and pay attention when you're freaking 6 years old?
When Jonathan was on, we met at baseball. Yeah. He was telling me about red dye and his son's focus. He knows instantly if his kid had something red, and the kid will be up all night. It makes me think, and then you think you're buying the right stuff, and all you're doing is spending more money because it's still terrible. And we've dropped the ball in my house, at least, on stuff like that, and we're trying to tighten up now.
No playbook. And what I was saying,
we're learning
what I was thinking
fire.
with Steve with the no playbook is, we're creating our own playbook based on what we learned throughout life, what our parents gave us, but we could still pull audibles. Yeah. So, all because you tried one thing doesn't mean your playbook sucks. It just means, okay, now we need to run a fake here, and now we're going to send somebody around, so we're going to scratch the Skittles for breakfast.
I always said this. I said, everything has to come in moderation. Right? One beer's okay.
Yeah.
Having 10 beers every night for 365 days a year. That's not right.
I was never good with moderation.
Right. So, and that's where, and then knowing what you can do moderately. Mine was chewing tobacco. Right? I chewed ever since I was 16 years old. And I tried to quit, and then I would go back and be like, oh, I'm just going to have one. And then it just couldn't be one. Right. Yeah. So that's where, I know that I can't, as much as I would love to, I can never put a dip in my mouth ever again. If I do, I'll just start chewing again.
Right back on it.
So, but moderation. That's really what it comes down to. And I think it's with food, it's with ice cream, it's with, the other stuff. Listen, it's okay to have something like that, ice cream or
Yeah.
whatever, food or, every once in a while, but it's what are you doing consistently on a daily basis?
Yes.
Like really, that's really what it comes down to.
Yep.
So,
And that's almost his answer to when you ask like what you do for yourself.
Yeah.
It's really like what he does on the daily.
Yeah.
And like he didn't talk about it, but he's on the bike. He's going for runs. He's getting his workout in. He's doing the cold plunge. They have a sauna at the house. Like he's finding all these things for himself day
just
in
like you,
and,
though, like you
day
said.
in and day out to assure that he's going to be good at work.
Yeah.
He's going to be good at home. He's going to be good for his kids.
He's on consistency.
Yeah, I'm on consistency. I'm
That's-
on discipline. I
yeah.
saw a video again recently that said, now this guy's a little bit extreme. He does ultra marathons and different things, but he said that for him to be the best father and the best version of himself, he found 3 hours cumulative to himself. 3 hours. Now, 3 hours is a lot for us with the young kids.
Yeah.
Probably a lot for you. It sounds like a big time a day. But if you go for a half-hour walk, now you only have 2.5 hours left.
Yeah.
Then you got an hour workout. Okay, that's another thing good. You did 15 minutes of gratitude. Now you're up to almost 2 hours. You hit the sauna for a half hour. And now you did like one more thing from when you woke up till you went to bed just for you.
Yeah.
I lacked that for a long time. And now I'm focused on that. Being
It
like,
shows, too.
like what we talked about being good selfish.
Yeah.
There's bad selfish. You go play cards with your boys. You crush beers all night. You're smoking cigars. You wake up with your kids. You give them terrible energy. But the good selfish, I got that confused. I thought that you had to be very selfless, but you could be selfish in
You
good
thought
ways.
they were one and the same, and
yeah,
they're not.
They're not. Mm-hmm.
yeah, definitely. I mean, taking care of yourself is only going to help you take care of your kids, right?
Exactly.
And they're
there's-
watching, too.
Of course,
Sponges.
100% of the time.
Yeah.
But there's definitely I've seen it with other aspects, and getting with Sean and Lisa. That was one of the things that I would joke with is, Sean was probably more comfortable around. Or when I say more comfortable might not be the right word, but he was around his friends at work. We were at the academy working
Yeah,
together. So there was, 6 of us that were together 10 hours a day
Yeah.
with sports and everything going on. How long was he with Lisa for?
Yeah.
Because I know on a daily basis, like me and Marlena, we sit down, we have about a half hour before
Yeah.
Solid.
we're both ready to go to bed. Like
Solid.
So we'll go to practice or whatever, and now we'll be like, hey, do you want to go for a walk? But
There you go.
like that half hour walk is most of our conversation for the
Yeah,
day.
right.
Every so often I'll get on the phone, or she'll get on the phone, but like you're like, who are you surrounding with on a daily basis? Most of the day is who you're working with.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I'm sure you probably talk with Scotty Cortese on a
Right.
daily much more than you do your wife.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
amazing when you have good, like-minded people around, but you could also be in a situation where your 9 to 5 is kind of an energy suck.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like
Brutal
bad
for you.
morale, and now you're clocking in and clocking out. You're
That
giving
could
your
be
wife
beyond
bad
work,
energy.
though,
and-
too. That could be just the people you surround yourself
yeah.
with, period.
Right.
Whether it's, Scott could, if he wasn't the person he is,
Yeah.
could be a terrible influence on my life,
Yeah.
And I spend a large amount of time with Scott at work. Then we're coaching football together.
Right.
Outside of football, our boys
Yeah.
are wrestling together. in
He's,
Predator.
he's such a great guy.
I love Scott, and I'm
Yeah.
so thankful to have found his friendship later in life, even though I make fun of him all the time for being from
Yeah, you call
Holmdel.
him Bay?
I do call him Bay.
Put on an Instagram
Bro,
story
that
calling
is,
him
that
Bay.
is a term of endearment. I love
he's great.
Scott. He has been, and we try to have lunch. Not only do we spend time at work together during working hours, not only are we coaching, we try to have lunch every day that one of our schedules allows for it. We try to hit Sorrentino's or
Work
whatever.
Bay.
Yeah, it's my guy.
I have to shout out your wife and her discipline and consistency at Leaks Fitness.
Hit her up, man.
I
Tell
saw
her.
her. No, I'm telling her right. I'm telling you right
Yeah.
now. I told her to her face too. But I was at your house. I saw her last
Yeah.
week. This woman had 3 kids. What's your youngest daughter's age?
3, just turned 3.
You could literally see the discipline.
Yeah,
and
she
it's not
bounced
what
back.
do you want, Mary? What do you
Yeah.
want? If it was a guy, it'd be what do you want, Mary? I'm on discipline. I'm on consistency. I'm going. How frequently does she go?
She's 3 days a week. For us now, I don't say this to sound cocky, but it's just facts. At 39 years old, I have amassed a decent amount of success. I don't really have much that I strive for. I can do what I want within reason, and I'm really happy in my little wheelhouse. I don't need to be in Aruba. I'm happy to be able to afford to go to Wildwood. Like, my needs are small, and all of them are met. So I didn't really need to be disciplined to go to the gym. In my mind, I've accomplished everything I really wanted to. Then I found leaks. And I found leaks because I had some health issues. My blood chemistry was all fucked up. And leaks has turned into a real family for us. You know, Mary found a real home there as well. Good. And, like, I mean, it goes just to Robbie hitting me up Monday to get over to the reservoir and do a couple miles. Max came. He loves Robbie. For us as a family, it's been great. Not just me, not just Mary. Max is there with me the other day. He's pushing the sled. He put in a whole hour workout with Robbie. Robbie's got him doing curls. You know,
he's got Chase Iyer over there, too.
Yeah, Chase is in there. Yep. And actually, there's a kid on my football team, 7U. He's in there working out with Manny at Leaks. You know, they do a lot. It's so much more than fitness, because anybody can go to the gym and go through the motions. Right. But there's accountability. And there's that
community.
I don't want to let you down side to it. And Mare has kind of really embraced that. She's got a great support system there with Alyssa, and Sydney has been awesome for her. And you know what? That's fair, Pete. I should have shouted her out sooner. And
no, it was just top of mind because I was just in your backyard last week, and like literally, like you could see her discipline. And, but. There is a direct correlation between life longevity and community. Yeah. And I'm just grateful that we found a great community.
I agree with you.
With great people around us doing great things.
You know, look at so we go to Thrive a couple weeks ago. Yep. Just look at the crew we amassed to go to Thrive. Yeah. Me, you, Saidi, Lex, Matty Trost. Mm-hmm. None of that would have really came together if it wasn't for this. So now, like, in hindsight, a lot of this put certain pieces in our life, and I'm really thankful for it. And every week we can try and add somebody new to that system, and you know, it's been really nice, and not just to benefit me, to benefit my wife, and you know,
there's such a trickle down on that positive type stuff. Yeah, there is a monster trickle down tidal wave on negative stuff though.
Yes.
So if it wasn't this, or it wasn't the good things and the working out, and now it's the beers all the time, or you know, whatever it may be, and it's just finding those good things to fill your tank. And I remember I was talking to Steve a lot when I was struggling and whatnot, and he was kind of like resorting back to like trying to fill other people's cups with an empty cup. You know, you're burnt out, you're tired, you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you're not making that half hour on the daily for your wife, so that's not going great. The work's not necessarily going great. The energy with the kids isn't necessarily going great, and then you feel like, oh, God, I can't do anything right.
Well, you know what, though? Everything could be going great, but if you're given so much and never taking anything for you, that's a problem. Now, I know you always used to say, you know, helping somebody out recharge your battery. Mm-hmm. But the truth is, and I've come to realize, you gotta make that hour or 2 hours or whatever you can for yourself. Yeah. Or what good are you now?
Well, that's your only charge. You know?
You would
there's
then have a
definitely
problem.
also stages of your life, right?
True.
So like, you know, like you were talking about work. Like there's a time now. I don't know if. I'm sure that there was a transition period from when your father and you and Mike took over certified, right? I'm sure you guys were working your butts off.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you know,
on a daily.
You talk about those
especially in his mind, we were doing everything wrong because we were growing so much and so fast.
But that's the point, is that when you're talking about all this stuff, and it was when I first got into the state police, or you know, when I was in coaching, or like when you first, you know, we're in your transition period from your old job to your new job, right? Like, there's going to be certain times where you're going to have to put in that work, and it's going to be less time,
and it's not going to be perfect, and things aren't going to get messy.
And like, listen, sometimes you just have to suck it up, and do it. Right?
Yeah,
like it is what it is. I mean, it's not going to be perfect all the time. No, but you have to find those little things that you can take, and then realize that you might not have those little things all the time to be able to take. So if you can grab it and take it at that point, then do it. Yeah. You know, that's why I said before when you said, is there anything? That's why if I don't want to do something now, I'm to the point where I'm like, I'm not doing that. No. Like, okay, well, you might not get promoted. Okay. Yeah. Like, you know, if you think I deserve it,
peace,
right?
Which is And you might not have peace every day.
Right.
But if you got peace the majority of the time,
Right.
it's
It's
okay to
gonna be
have a
okay.
shitty day.
Right. Well, you also are, as you get older and you go through your experiences and you're dealing with your kids and your family and you get to see some of this, you put things in perspective.
I was gonna say perspective.
And when you're able to put those things in perspective and what truly makes you happy, happy in life and happy doing your job every day or whatever it is that makes you happy in that sense, like then it's not work. It's not a job. Like people are like, I can't believe, like, I mean, you're going crazy with sports and 3 kids and you're going here and you're going there. Yeah, does it stink? Are there some days where I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to drive down 195 again today? Like, this is crazy, you know? But I mean, my daughter coming in and sitting in the car and showing me that she was a double American at AAU Nationals, like, that was awesome. Like, she was so proud of that. And that, you know, like those things, you know, to me, yes, it's the sacrifice as a parent that we're willing to make, but that stuff truly makes me happy. So if that makes me happy, then I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And
I
so
agree with that.
That's where, you know, but it's not like a cookie cutter like piece. It's not just like, all right, well, you got to make an hour a day. Like, that's what you got to do. Like right now, that might be what works for you. It might be like, all right,
Well, it's ever
like,
changing. I mean, it's got to evolve as we're at different stages of life.
Exactly. And you'll see it. And, you know, right now I see it in all 3. And that's why, you know, there are some things I might not agree with that other parents might do. And like I saw you that one day and I said, but I had to take a step back and I expressed to Pete and I said, maybe we have to take a little step back in that and be like, because that parent's doing something right. Right? Their kids are going to really good schools and they're not drinking and they're not into drugs. And so we might not agree with what they're dealing with, but I'm not walking in their shoes either, right? So
and I never walked in their shoes their whole life that led up to the reasoning why they made that monster shift and how impactful of a difference it was from the way they came up to the way their kids are coming up,
right.
You know?
And so that's really, the thing is that, you know, being open-minded, I think, is a good thing.
Yeah,
right?
that's huge.
I mean, there are a lot of, like, I know that there are a lot of parents, our parents' age, that would be like, what do you mean you're going to talk about your feelings or, you know, any of that, right? They wouldn't do it. It would never happen, right? Not that none of them ever suffered from mental illness or they had any issues. They did. They were going through their own issues, but they just didn't handle it.
Navigated a little bit differently.
Different times. But, you know, now if we have an outlet and we can talk and we can get knowledge out to people or have those conversations, I think that's a good thing, right? So I don't think that's a bad thing for sure.
Well, like Petey said before, we're trying to find the blend between parenting today and parenting from like the 80s. You know?
I like the old school stuff.
Yeah, but you got to embrace some of the new school
gotta,
too, because you know that's kind of why we're sitting here, because we were taught, you know, man's got to shove that shit down inside, not talk about your feelings. And I want my kids to know, especially my son, you know, because I can relate. I was a 7-year-old boy at one point in my life. I don't want him to think that he's got to hold back tears. I don't want him to think that he can't talk to me about what he's feeling. I want him to know that it's okay to come to me. He also needs to know that we have to persevere and push through, though.
Yeah, there's definitely...
That's the thing. It's like you got to still have that.
Like, it's cool. Let's take this minute right now, this 5 minutes. Let's talk about it. Let's get through it. And then we're ultimately going to have to push through, son. Because in life... you can't just turn around and walk away.
Yeah, listen, there's consequences, right? And that's where
is.
and I express that to all my kids. I said, listen, there's definitely a consequence, but that consequence is a lot better than being dead.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
I mean, so listen, all right, so you don't have your phone, right? Or you don't get the car, or you don't get this toy or whatever it is. Like, it's the world to them. I understand that.
In the grand scheme of things, though, in life, it is now we're grown adults. We understand that.
Right.
And at some point, your kids, my kids, Pete's kids will appreciate that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right now, probably not, though.
No.
Like I told you before.
Like, we all have 3 kids. What were you going to say? I told you before.
I was going to say, I took Max's iPad. He told me he hated it.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
of course.
Steve, do you miss where Billy and I are currently at right now? Like, my daughter Rowan is like fresh out of diapers. So it was like, once I bought that last box of diapers, I was like a little bit upset. I was like, oh, I can't believe my baby. And then she took a dump in her undies, and I instantly was like, okay, I'm cool. I'm glad, you know, we're out of this stage. But you're so in the present right now, and I'm just trying to not necessarily fast forward what Billy and I have to look forward to as our kids get a little bit older. But do you ever kind of find yourself on 195 thinking back to when they were 3, 4?
I mean, I guess Facebook and
Yeah, you see the memories pop up.
They all pop up, and yeah, listen, it's a blink of an eye,
Yes.
and it is where it is. So I try not to dwell upon that part of
Right.
it because I want to be present, right? And that's part of it. Is like, listen, we, go back, enjoy it, but in retrospect, I want to be as present as possible as I can. But at the same token, yeah, of course, I miss some of those days. But
It's wild,
I am
man.
sure I am going to look forward to being a grandparent. And I remember, like, the grandparents, like, used to say, like, it's great because then I can give them back, right? So
we've discussed that.
So I'm okay with it. I definitely don't miss diapers, although I did them.
Right.
I was
Sleepless nights.
I don't remember. Like, I got a little taste of it. Dave Elliott came with us on vacation, and we did a hike, and I was like, I did this hike. I had, Taryn on my back. And he's like, oh, it's funny. We got Cole. And I was like, yeah, I'll put Cole in the back. And I got to the top. He's like, you want me to do it on the way down? I'm like, yeah, please.
You were almost like a grandparent right there. Like, okay, take the baby back.
Yeah, it was cool. It was great for the walk up. I don't know
back
about
is
the walk
killing
up.
me.
It was definitely, it's something that you do miss. I mean, there's definitely some times that I miss, but I'm super excited for the future and what that has to hold too.
And you're so in the present right now.
It's tough not to be in the present because there's just a lot going on.
But that's the best place to be.
So you got to appreciate it, though. Like, even the little things. Like, you came over last week. We had Petey came over. The Porters were at the house. I cold plunged. All the kids are going wild in the backyard. Rowan's playing with Rosie and Josephine.
That was adorable.
It was like so special to me. Just watching now. Listen, my daughters are 3 and 4 years old. They're still babies, but watching them play and like the smiles on their face, a Carter running around. It was just like, I get joy from seeing Max happy, but I know that I have to cherish those moments with the girls because, like, that's going to end soon. Like, Max is 7. He's not the same he was when he was 4. It's different. And watching Rosalie and Josephine and Rowan and Carter just smiling and playing, it's so pure. It was amazing to me. And being in that moment was just important.
Awesome. Well, Steve, thank you so much for joining us,
appreciate
man. You gave us
Thank
great
you,
stuff.
Steve.
All good stuff.
Guys, in closing, click the links, like, share. Anybody wants to reach out, please do not hesitate. We are here to answer any questions. If you're going through something, we're here. And if you want to be a guest, reach out. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you.
Thank you.